What's going on, everyone? Jim here, back with another BroncoCAST, where I drive and talk and you sit and listen. It actually works out pretty well. I finally got my camera mount fixed on my car, and I say fixed as in like not really fixed, more so as like I actually set it up properly. The last few times I had this giant ass bracket that would hit the windshield, and it was so painstakingly annoying to get my phone on there. So I went out and bought different brackets, and here we are. It actually works a lot better. It's sitting nice and flush on my dash, maybe aimed a little high. Looking at it now, I know that if Brent is watching, he always talks about like quarters and thirds, and obviously with his wife being a photographer, he's probably got a trained eye for that. I don't. I'm just a dude driving his Bronco. What I want to talk about today was Hellblade and kind of the reception that it's been getting. So I haven't done a formal video yet on my channel about it. I will in due time. I did play a few hours of it. I downloaded it on my Series X. I still prefer to play games on my Series X whenever possible over my PC, because my gaming monitor doesn't have OLED, and if games do support higher frame rate, at least 60, that combination with OLED is just so much more appealing to me visually than ultra wide at like 80 or 90. There are games I go back and forth on, and again, with the power of Xbox and the cloud and such, it doesn't really matter. You kind of just play it wherever you want, whenever you want. You can start on one console, go to the other, come back, and it works pretty well. And it's an awesome feature of the system. And that's one of the reasons that I love playing on Xbox, is I get that flexibility. I can record nice high quality videos for you guys off my PC that are ultra wide. And then when I want to have a more casual session, which is me and my sound bar and my real comfy couch, I go upstairs and I just jam out and have a great time. So nice to have that flexibility. But Hellblade did not move the needle, and I don't know why people are surprised by that. And I think that Microsoft has kind of, once again, if they haven't already done it like a billion zillion other times, kind of painted themselves in a corner. So when Microsoft was really starting to ramp up the idea of Game Pass, even like when it was first announced, you know, the idea of this Netflix for games, this streaming service, you know, a lot of us were skeptical. I know I was. But as Microsoft begun to go into a feverish buying spree, picking up all these studios and saying, hey, everything you see here under our umbrella now, including Bethesda, everything you see here will roll into Game Pass as part of your subscription. Which, hey, really cool, right? That's kind of what we want. We want to hear that news that makes us excited as fans to say, yes, give us that goodness. We want more. Unfortunately, because Microsoft set themselves up in such a way, I think people expected Game Pass to be a must-have at all times by releasing games constantly when you think of the plethora of studios that Microsoft has scooped up. So it makes sense that they would go out of their way to show off tons of games at their gamer showcase, and to go out of their way to constantly remind you, hey, you know, your favorite game is only a month away and it's a really good chance we made it, which is really, really, really cool. But that didn't happen. Instead, for reasons that many don't know and we constantly speculate on as video game pundits, Microsoft isn't releasing tons of games. And instead, they have kind of delved back into a more traditional model of what Sony PlayStation has done, where they have a smaller list of studios that are releasing phenomenal experiences, which become the must-play experience of the year. Insomniac's not releasing a Spider-Man game every year, but rest assured when they do, it's going to be a Game of the Year contender. And when you hear some of these other studios, you know when they're making something, it's going to be an industry shaper, a needle mover, It's going to sell units. It's going to bring people into the ecosphere. It's going to create that trusted and loyal fan base that make people like me proud to be Sony ponies, because it's freaking awesome. However, Microsoft kind of went a different route initially. Microsoft said, well, what we're going to do is we're going to instead focus on kind of more quantity. You're going to have a lot more games. We're buying tons of studios who are constantly going to be trickling into Game Pass. And unfortunately, through, again, a lot of weird circumstances, that didn't happen. So now you have mediocre games or B-tier games. And let's be fair, Hellblade was good, but it's not a like AAA game on the same level as The Last of Us, right? Or a AAA game in par with Mario, the latest Mario game, whatever it happens to be, right? Like Mario Wonder. Like, that was a game that was like, oh my god, people have to play this. Or Legend of Zelda. I mean, pick your poison, right? It doesn't compare to those games. So Microsoft doesn't really advertise it because they know that it's not going to appeal to everyone. They know it's kind of a budget game in a sense. The combat's kind of gimmicky. The puzzles are kind of basic. Yeah, you're gonna squeeze anywhere from 7 to 10 hours out of that experience, but it's not going to be the game that you're playing for weeks and months on end. It's not the game you're going to run home from school or take a day off of work to play at launch. So you think, okay, the strategy here then is, let's release a ton of games that are all, as we say, swimming in a sea of sevens. All a bunch of like mediocre-ish games. And that's how you'll sell what Game Pass has become, because you're going to get these games that are good, they keep your attention for a couple weeks, and when they start to get stale, well, fear not, we got the next one, and we got the next one after that, and that's what's going to draw you into our ecosphere, and that's what's going to draw you into playing our games. That didn't happen. So now you have a game that was not expected to perform mediocrely being criticized because it didn't perform mediocrely. And a lot of the pundits that I follow online, and a lot of the journalists that I read about, and just what I'm seeing across Reddit and Twitter and, game conglomeration websites, don't seem to be making that distinction, and instead are kind of chalking this up as just a big fat loss. And I don't think that's fair to Hellblade, and I honestly don't think that's fair to Game Pass itself. However, Microsoft is absolutely to blame for what happened here. Poor management, poor decisions. It's the same reason I keep releasing videos time after time after time saying that Phil Spencer needs to go. He's in over his head. Matt Booty and Sarah Bond and Aaron Greenberg, kind of the big tribe leaders, aren't getting it. They're not figuring out what to do. And that's really clear, I think, when you look at yet another game that's kind of chalked up and meant to be shredded. Didn't really get a lot of publicity. Wasn't really expected to move needles. And all I see online is thumbnails of people showing off that game with screenshots of the current players on, Steam or whatever, and they're low. And it's going to be low because it's a niche game about a character who suffers with dementia and this schizophrenia, and it's not meant to compete against God of War, but people are going to draw that distinction because it's a third-person action-adventure, combat-esque, puzzle-solving type game. So that's a natural comparison, but it's not God of War. It's not even God of War DLC. It's just kind of there. And I just don't understand Microsoft's messaging. Clearly, the big tribe leaders do not understand the business of making games. Look at their resume the last 10 years, excluding the Series X, excluding the Series X, and I know that I'm running over some cobblestones here. Excluding those two, look at even the Elite controller, which I know is somewhat polarizing, but I love the Elite controller series too. I think it does a really phenomenal job, and it's like my preferred way to play, right? Outside of those hardware differences, which I have constantly said, hardware is the whole reason they hired Phil Spencer. With the hardware problem firmly in the rearview mirror, instead, it's time to focus on the software. And these guys haven't figured it out. So, as I wrap up this video, because I'm going to see a movie with my boy, Poppy, I want to say that I'm really curious how and if Microsoft tries to respond to this during their press conference that they're going to have here in a few weeks. Are they going to be able to successfully embrace this culture and try to quell the fact that, hey, you know what? We really haven't been releasing a lot of games, and we're kind of sorry about that. Or are they going to look at this and say, yeah, you know, those days are over, and we're going to just kind of slow down, and we're giving up this idea of a new Game Pass game every day, and instead we're now going to focus on more high visibility titles that come out less frequently. I don't know. I don't think anybody knows. And I'm more curious about that than anything else they're doing or saying. I think that's the message that they need to brand, not any other one. So I'll be curious what you guys think in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts. Hopefully the audio is good. I mean, I am driving on the highway in a Bronco. It's going to be loud and proud. The tops are coming off on the way home. I don't care if it's 11 o'clock at night. But that'll wrap up today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Take care of yourselves. I'll do better framing myself next time. And that's all. Bye for now.